Today on HED, I'm going to talk about how to make your gin and tonics better than they've ever been before. Just the best. Is it the drink of summer? Today we find out on HTD. For years, I've been making my gin and tonics using Tonic Syrup. I love the drinks that I get from this stuff. But in truth, I've never lined it up against some competition and done it side by side. So I'm going to start with that. Then after that, I'm going to make my own tonic syrup using Jeffrey Morgenthaler's recipe. And then I'm going to get into the embellishments on the classic gin and tonic. All right, so I've explained the gin and tonic history thing before. I did an episode on that like 2 years ago, and I feel like I covered that history pretty well enough. I'm going to drop a link to it below if that's what you're looking for. This is going to be about recipes and modifications, and we're going to get on with that in just a moment. But first, I do want to put a footnote onto that previous episode, which I called Chloroquine and the Gin and Tonic. Not all the time, but occasionally people come into the comments on that one and drop some snark about how it's aged poorly, or you're not so smart now, are you? And I have a message for those people. You are wrong. The science on this subject is utterly and completely settled. 2 years later, not a single study has shown that hydroxychloroquine has any efficacy whatsoever in treating or preventing COVID-19. It was false then, it remains false now. If you're watching this video right now and somehow have it in your head that hydroxychloroquine is an effective treatment against COVID-19, I hope you step back and take a good long think about where you're getting your information from. They're bad, manipulative sources. Okay? You could do better, I believe in you. Now that that's out of the way, let's have some fun. The tonic in gin and tonic is typically a carbonated water infused with quinine from the bark of a cinchona tree, which at the time of its invention was an effective anti-malarial treatment. Malaria has evolved quite a bit since then, and there's very few strains of the parasite remaining that can be treated with quinine, but the drink is stuck around because it's good. The British government was making tonic for their soldiers in India, which is big bad for colonialism reasons, but also those guys didn't want to get malaria, and so they gave them tonic. Quinine is super bitter, so the tonic that they were giving to these soldiers was very, very bitter. They put it in with some sugar, with some water, whatever, but the thing that they found that made it palatable was the addition of gin. And therefore, we get the gin and tonic, and the drink of summer, or a drink of summer, was born. Gin and tonic is a bright, bitter, refreshing drink made by combining, you guessed it, gin and tonic, and usually a little lime. Now, by my account, there's only 3 variables that go into a gin and tonic. It's what gin you use, what tonic you use, and the ratio between the two. I suppose a 4th variable would be, do you like a bit of lime in it or not? I do. I think most people do, but that's really about it. Now the ratio, I prefer the G&T to wind up right around 2 parts tonic to 1 part gin. But I also think that this is one of those recipes where you should play with it and make it suit your tastes and the ingredients you're working with. So what gin should you use? What gin makes the best G&T? Honestly, I don't think this makes a huge difference as you might think. Any of the decent London dries are gonna make a fine gin and tonic. Some of the more esoteric gins out there like Hendrick's, your mileage may vary, but really use the gin you like, okay? But now we come to the tonic itself. The tonic that you use in your gin and tonic is going to have the far larger effect on the outcome of this drink because you use more tonic than gin. It's most of your drink, and there's a big difference from one brand to the next. So in this little gin and tonic showdown lineup, I've got, let's see here, some pretty standard grocery store brand Canada Dry. I got some premium stuff. I've got Q and I've got Fever Tree. These are both held in fairly high regard. I've heard that the use of these 2 tonics be referred to as being essential to making a good gin and tonic. I've got this Top Hat Provisions Classic Tonic Syrup Craft Concentrate. This product's brand new to me. I was looking for this stuff and Amazon suggested it to me. So I said, okay, let's try that. And then I've got the Tomers, which I've always used and I've always loved. And then I've got this homemade tonic syrup made using Jeffrey Morgenthaler's recipe, and I'll be making another batch of that later in the episode, and you can follow along at home. Make your own batch. Let's see how it stacks up. Got 6 of them. I think I'm just gonna test these as tonic, not as a gin and tonic, because I think that really we wanna analyze the differences between the tonics on their own. So let's start up with a taste test of tonics, starting with grocery store Canada Dry. Schweppes might also make, and there's probably also like a couple of other brands of like grocery store tonic out there. This is the one I happen to have. Here we go. A little bit of carbonation in there. Reasonably sweet, not terribly bitter. It's got a little bit of bite. I kind of like it as a soft drink on its own. Not a lot of character, just dry quinine bitterness with like a bit of sweetness, a little bit of sugar added to it. And I'm sure there is plenty of sugar in there. Yeah, like 35 grams of sugar per serving. That's quite a bit. The Q, 9 grams of sugar. So this is a lot drier. A lot more fizz. Look at that. Wow. Look at that. It's like erupting in the glass. So this Q tonic is less quinine bittery, more watery, but it's less sweet, more lime. All right, let's go to the Fever Tree. Not a twist off. You know, they're for real. A lot of fizz. How much sugar? 16 grams per serving. I like the Fever Tree a lot better than Q, but also it's sweeter. So, I mean, that could be a factor. This is not really that conclusive yet. All of those were pretty similar. Main difference I would say is that the Canada Dry wasn't carbonated enough and very sweet. All right, top hat provisions. Let's see, what do they tell me to do? Wow, so this is really concentrated. They're saying 1 ounce of syrup to 5 ounces of club soda. I'm gonna make some soda right now using my DrinkMate. I love this device. You can carbonate anything in it. I was actually carbonating grapefruit juice just the other night, trying to make some grapefruit Collinses. Soda Stream, you can't carbonate anything but water in it. I got this like bleeder valve. That doesn't taste like tonic at all. Honestly, that tastes like a lime club soda. I'm not a fan. All right, we got the Tomers. That was 5-to-1. This is 3-to-1. So use 1 ounce of tonic syrup and 3 ounces of pure soda water. It is dark, and that's because it's not clarified. It's got natural cinchona extract in it, just like this stuff here. Here we are, Tomers. That is a wonderful flavor. Boy, it tastes like tobacco. I mean, distinctly tastes like the smell of a humidor full of cigars. I've never noticed that before. I mean, I've never done a comparison like this though, so that is a fun surprise. It is sweet, it is tangy, it is bitter. I like it. It's not very dry, I will say that. If you have like an idea in your mind of what tonic should taste like, maybe you'd be disappointed by this. It is tonic water, and I take their word for it too over here at Top Hat that it is as well, but it doesn't have the really dry, astringent bitterness that you usually associate with one of these. And I do say that it's a dry bitterness, even though these are sweetened beverages, particularly the Canada Dry. You get the sweetness with the bitterness together. They don't really commingle to create a new flavor. This is more like it's created a new flavor. Now, the interesting thing about all of that is I do suspect that this is a lot closer to what the gin and tonic of the 1700s tasted like that popularized the beverage. I cannot get over that humidor note. That is crazy. All right, and then my last tonic water I want to sample is the homemade tonic water that I made using the recipe I found in this book. The Bar Book. This is a book by Mr. Jeffrey Morgenthaler. Really wonderful book. All kinds of fun stuff. I'm gonna put a link in the pin comp below. He has sussed out quite a few things and pieces of knowledge, and honestly his recipes have shown up on the show a number of times. So to say I'm a fan would be an understatement. I encourage you to pick up a copy of this. Use the link in the pin comp below. Today, we are gonna make a recipe from it. We're gonna make this tonic syrup, but first let's test it. So he recommends mixing the syrup, 1 part syrup to 3 parts soda water. There's 1 ounce of syrup. Same as Tomers. Big fizz on there. Oh wow. Okay. I like that a lot. And now I see how this gets its tobacco taste. That tobacco taste is coming from the bark of the red cinchona tree for sure. However, here, I think that maybe this bottle, you know, maybe it's been sitting around a little while. It's oxidized or something. I'm not sure. That's the main part that comes through. Here you're getting that as well, but you are also getting that really bitter quinine snap that you get with these. No question, this is, I would say, objectively the best of the tonics here. It delivers everything that you need these to deliver. It has that really bitter bite. I'm not finding that in Top Hat. I mean, I've found that before in Tomers. I'm not finding it tonight. But it also has this very cool character and evolution that you do find in Tomers, no doubt. Kind of a tang, almost metallic flavor. It goes right into this really sharp, biting lime and quinine flavor. On another analysis of it, maybe what I'm tasting is a little bit earthy. That's what it is. It's dirt-ish. It's a different kind of earthy than I would normally ascribe something to being earthy. It calls to mind a red earth, which brings to mind a picture of the film Red Dust, starring Jean Harlow and Clark Gable. It takes place, I think, somewhere in Southeast Asia, if I'm not mistaken. He's on like a rubber tree plantation. So, makes sense. It fits the motif. Vile colonialism and also delicious gin and tonics. Yeah, it's super good. There is no comparison. It's head and shoulders above every other option. Make this And right now, up next, I'm going to show you how. Hey there, campers. Ranger Greg here, and I'm partnered with Yellowstone Bourbon to take you on a mixological tour of the national parks. Come with me. You know, Yellowstone is our first national park, and it is currently celebrating its 150th anniversary, just like Yellowstone Bourbon, which was founded that same year in 1872 by J.W. Dant to celebrate the designation of the area as a park. I wanted to create a drink that would serve as a toast to the park, and I began by thinking, of course, about the geysers and the hot springs, and that massive volcano caldera, the windswept meadows of grass and bison. And while all of that is true and good, it doesn't really give me a solid footing to build a drink on. But there's a tiny berry that grows out there, and it shows up in jams and jellies and preserves and just really everywhere. Over 50,000 pounds of huckleberry a year are consumed by park guests, and that's not even getting into the local grizzly bear consumption. It can be about a third of their diet. So I got my hands on some huckleberries, and I came up with this drink I call an Old Faithful. So get your shaker. I'm going to add to this 2 ounces of my huckleberry syrup. Look at this stuff. It is positively iridescently purple. I'm actually going to take a half a lemon sliced right into my shaker. Take 1 sprig of fresh mint and pull the leaves from it and put that in there. Now we're going to add 2 ounces of our Yellowstone bourbon. Going to muddle that a little bit. Okay, get yourself some ice. I'm not used to wearing a hat. Take a nice goblet here. Put some crushed ice in there. Okay, strain that. There you go. Garnish that with some mint and lavender. Really gives it a floral vibe. And that is a drink I call the Old Faithful. Woo! It is just a wonderful variation on a smash. There's a lot of tartness in a huckleberry. They really bring something lovely to this drink. One thing I do love about this drink a lot is that it doesn't actually overpower the bourbon. We still get this really mellow caramel and peanuts kind of finish. It's a really fun drink that has a quick evolution, but with a lot of turns in it. Yellowstone Bourbon donates $1.50 for each bottle sold to the National Parks Conservation Association to help protect and preserve our national parks. To celebrate the 150th anniversary of both park and bourbon, they've released the Yellowstone Select Landmark Edition bottle series. Visit limestonebranch.com to find out where you can pick up a bottle in your area. Thank you, Yellowstone Bourbon, for sponsoring this episode, and here's to you and our national parks. I am going to make that tonic that you just saw me tasting. I'm going to be using the recipe, like I said, from Jeff Morgenthaler's The Bar Book. Great book. You should buy a copy. Use the link below. I had previously loved his recipe for a lime cordial, so I was really excited to try his tonic recipe, and I am pleased to report that it checks out, and everything in this book is gold. His recipe begins by steeping 6 grams of powdered cinchona bark in 150 milliliters of vodka. This is how we get the quinine into this stuff, by making a quinine tincture. I want to issue some caution right now about quinine. It's dangerous stuff. Don't go and buy like a medicinal grade like quinine extract or something like that. Stick with cinchona bark. I don't think you can hurt yourself too bad with that, okay? But like, it is no joke. Like, if you really ended up with something with a lot of quinine in it as a result of messing around with this too much, you might get in trouble. Once that's good and steeped, you set up a coffee filter, strain it back out, and then you gotta wait a long time, like an hour or more. But when it is done slowly working its way through that filter, you will have a very lovely tincture of quinine, which can be kept and used forever. Now, you're gonna take a saucepan, add to it all of the other ingredients. He calls them the aromatics. Half a liter of water, 400 grams of sugar, 10 grams of gentian root, 20 grams of citric acid, 30 grams of lemon peel, and another 30 grams of grapefruit peel. 2 grams of broken Ceylon cinnamon stick. Bring that to a boil, back it off, and let it simmer for about 20 minutes, covered. After you cool it, you strain that into a glass bottle and add to it 45 milliliters of that quinine tincture. And that's it. That's how you make this tonic syrup. And so that quinine tincture should have enough for at least 3 batches of the syrup. And it'll last forever. You can just put it on a shelf. It's a shelf-stable ingredient. So I want to make a gin and tonic with that right now. Like, this is going to be the gin and tonic kind of perfected, Jeff Morgenthaler style. So I'm going to start by throwing an ice cube in here. Ice cube in. Now I want to do half an ounce of our syrup. 1.5 ounces of soda water. I'm going to give that a little stir to incorporate, keeping in mind that I don't want to go too aggressively and flatten it out all the way. And then I want to do 2 ounces of a London Dry gin. I'm going to use Tanqueray. Still plenty of bubbles. That really hits your nose. Boy, that is something else. Prepare a little lime wedge to garnish it with. And there we have the gin and tonic a la Jeff Morgenthaler. That's delicious. It is earthy and bitter and bright and citrusy and ginny. I don't know how else to describe that. Junipery. It is like a cool breeze through a dark and inviting, mysterious forest on a hot summer day, inviting you away from the heat and into the shade of the boughs of the beautiful trees. Refreshing. I am going to throw a little squeeze in. I don't know if Mr. Morgenthaler would approve of me actually doing that. I think he'd probably be fine with it. I don't know specifically who, but some people don't like what I just did to their drinks. For me, that's better. So the lime, of course, is not a very sweet fruit, but it might bring some sweetness with it. Or at the very least, it gives this drink an appearance of sweetness. Very, 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 very mild. Not even enough that objectively you would register it as sweetness, but before and after you might. It brings a freshness to its fruit and citrus bite. I don't know if it was lacking before, but it's just even better now. I really like the twist. I would put the squeeze of lime juice in, my own personal taste. And I always would. I mean, I don't know too many people who prefer their gin and tonic to be completely devoid of lime juice. If you're one of them, let me know. It probably is the best damn gin and tonic I've ever had. I think it's phenomenal. All right, right after this, I want to talk about how to improve upon a gin and tonic. But how can a gin and tonic be improved upon? I don't know, maybe improve is the wrong word. Maybe what I really mean is to say embellish or elaborate on. A gin and tonic is already really stripped down to its essential parts. In that way, it's kind of already been perfected. There's nothing else to take away. But maybe sometimes you want something a little bit extra. So right off the top, swapping that little twist of lime, which does have a profound effect on the drink, as you just saw, for a different citrus, grapefruit or orange. I like the idea of a grapefruit. That can have a big effect on the drink. So let's just make ourselves. Is that what I want? Like a wedge? Yeah, I probably do. Another glass, another ice cube, another ½ ounce of our syrup, 1½ ounces of soda water, and 2 ounces of gin. Give that a stir. And then just, instead of the lime, grapefruit. Now, I know that that shouldn't be a huge difference in most drinks, right? Just switching from one citrus to another. Give that a squeeze. Sure, drop it in, why not? Wildly different. Less biting. Less snap, actually. It's more of a mellow drink. But in a drink like a gin and tonic, where it's got such carefully balanced components, a small change like that can have a really profound effect. And you can't really go wrong, so try an orange. I can see passion fruit being really interesting, actually. I don't happen to have any on hand. This is also another place where you can try out some different bitters. I think a celery bitter, or really, again, talking about grapefruit, this is that original gin and tonic with the lime. Just throwing a couple dashes of grapefruit bitters in there is going to have a huge difference in the outcome here. Whoa, that adds a whole aromatic component to it that was not there before. Additionally, I think straight Angostura bitters, probably not a crazy idea. That's fascinating. I love that. I happen to love Angostura bitters, but that just puts this like snappy, spicy note in there. I didn't have anything like that before. It's a great place to play with bitters because like an old fashioned, they won't get lost in it. There's so little in a gin and tonic that any small change you make is gonna be big. I think cherry bitters would be really cool too. I don't happen to have any. Beyond that, those ideas, like switching out your fruit, throwing some bitters in it, I think that a gin and tonic is a drink that welcomes herbs and floral flavors. You could make a lavender syrup or a tincture and add a bit of that. If you've got cucumber or celery shrubs, thyme, sage, basil all yield new twists that will work. They may not be your cup of tea, but it will be somebody's. I happen to really like a rosemary gin and tonic, particularly when I use smoke. That's the best way to get it in there. And I've done that on the show and I'm gonna do it again. To do that, get yourself something ceramic that won't burn. I've seen it done where they put it on like a cedar shake or something where like they do want the wood smoke. I wanna isolate the smoke of the rosemary. That's just my personal taste. Get that good and burning, right? Then get a glass and trap that smoke in the glass, right? I think normally for this particular drink, I wouldn't build it in the glass. Normally I would build this in a mixing glass and pour into the smoky glass. I'm gonna try something a little different today. Take your smoky glass, dropping an ice cube in there and just build my drink as normal. Let's see how much smoke is retained. I'm gonna bet quite a bit. I mean, as it flows throughout there. ½ ounce of syrup, 1½ of seltzer, 2 ounces of gin. From a presentation standpoint, you kind of want the smoke reveal to be the end of the drink. You don't want to continue to be building the drink. That's one of the reasons why I would build it on the side and pour it in. But I've taken enough trips out of the room on this episode as it is, so I'm not doing it. I'm gonna throw a little twist of lime in too. From a practical standpoint, I guarantee this still tastes like rosemary. Tastes of rosemary powerfully, yet somehow doesn't mask any of the other gin and tonic. It's just alongside all the other flavors from the gin and tonic. It works out really well, particularly rosemary. I think that's a great way to improve a gin and tonic and really impress a guest or a friend. That is a lovely drink. Everything that a gin and tonic has going on in it is there. It's got that bite. It's got that slight sweetness. It's got the lime, juniper from the gin, all just doing exactly what they do so well. And then you also have this vapor of rosemary kind of infused throughout the drink spontaneously, just by putting that smoke into the glass, and it'll stay there. It's a great way to get that in there, and to get it in there in a hurry without any real preparation. All you need to have is the ingredients and the tools. Oh, and I should have garnished it with a sprig. Boop, put that in there so people know. Rosemary. I made the rosemary gin and tonic a long time ago on the show, early days of the show. Haven't revisited since, so I'm glad to get another shot at it here. You can add fresh fruit to a gin and tonic too. To do that, I will build it a little bit different. I'm gonna build this one in the shaker. I'm just gonna take a strawberry. I don't think more than one is necessary. I'll cut it, just to help it. Give it a little more surface area, but it's gonna get completely smashed. I put the top in too. And then otherwise, just put your ingredients minus seltzer in here. You don't wanna shake your soda water. So a half an ounce of syrup, 2 ounces of a dry gin. I'm gonna prep a glass, put my ice cube in, and 1.5 ounces of soda water. Great, that's done. I'm gonna take my ice, put my ice there, crack another one. I'm gonna shake that up. Get yourself a double strainer, because you're gonna want to do this as fast as you can, and the fruit's gonna work against you. Garnish that with a strawberry and a slice of lime. And there you have a strawberry gin and tonic. Oh, that's fun. Oh, that's really fun. Oh, I love that. I love that. I love it. I never made this before. I just had the idea. I'm in love with it. Hold on a second. I'm going to put my lime twist in. I think that maybe if I was going to make this again, I would have put the lime into the shaker with it. This piece of ice is too big for the glass, so I got to work it in. Oh, it's so cool because you get the strawberry up front and it revolves from this sweet strawberry place into this biting, bitter, tonic, lime, and gin place. It is a huge shift in flavor. I mean, it's like up here. This drink's got like multiple personality disorder or something. I really like the end result of that. I think that the gin and tonic doesn't get looked at as a platform for you to do different drinks off of. But it really should be. There's no reason you can't, as I've evidenced. You can do it with smoked ingredients, you can do it with different citrus, you can do fruit infusions with it. The gin and tonic is a versatile drink. Try it out and come up with some weird stuff. I think that the main takeaway here, use the best tonic you can get your hands on. Most natural, most fresh, most, it's gonna sound stupid, but ingredient-based. That makes sense in my head. I don't know if that makes sense in anybody else's head. If you don't have time to make your own tonic syrup, that's fine. I think Tomer's is a really good, commercially available tonic syrup. I'll put a link to some in the pin comment below. Also gonna put a link to the bar book in the pin comment below so you can make your own. If neither of those are available, hey, look, use the tonic water you've got locally available. Just ideas today. You will find me on Twitter and on Instagram and Patreon, where you can support this show and get other kinds of extras as well. I get access to my Discord server, all that stuff is right there in Patreon. I'm on Twitch sometimes when I live stream, and I'm also now on the TikTok. And you'll find links to all that stuff right here. A lot of other YouTubers are going to tell you to like and comment and subscribe, and I honestly don't care if you do any of those things. I wouldn't mind it if you did, don't get me wrong. Like, comment, and subscribe. Officially, it doesn't seem to matter that much. What does matter a whole lot is if you watch my show, and if you don't stop watching my show. So here are 4 episodes that you've never seen before. Well, you've probably seen them. Here are 4 episodes that you might not have seen before because I've been making this show since before you were born, and maybe one of them is a new one for you. And if it's not, just watch it again. Just like leave the show running while you run errands and fall asleep, whatever it takes. I don't care. Certainly don't ever stop watching How to Drink. In the meantime, though, I will see you soon with another episode of HTD next week. All right, stay tuned.